welcome back to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michele. This is the show where we talk about exceptional human encounters, the people who make them happen, and the actions it takes to create them. So today, and in the last few days, I've been reflecting on what are the three main ingredients of healthy social well-being. And this is what I've come up with. If you agree or disagree, weigh in. Let me know if you're watching live in chat. So the first one, I think we all need to participate in growth groups. So this is participating, in social activities that support who you are and what's important to you. It's interacting with people who know your goals, and they occupy one of these three roles. They're either a mentor to you, a supporter, or a challenger. Yes, I said challenger because sometimes you need somebody just like challenging you a little bit to like rethink something or retool it in a supportive, like, hey, did you consider this kind of way? The second thing that I think is important to healthy well-being is intimate encounters. So having close relationships with people that allow you to be vulnerable. And of course, physical intimacy is really important in this category and is an important encounter as well. And then the third one is isolated reflection, making time for self-reflection outside of the influence of everything and everyone competing for your attention. Now, I believe you can survive and even thrive with two of those things in the mix. So you don't have to have all three, but at least two, participating in two to really feel the benefits of healthy relationships. Because we all know the studies at this point that people that are in healthy relationships live longer, they have less ailments. So healthy is the key word there. When we think about healthy isolation, we're often talking about meditation, yet our lives are getting busier, louder, and more distracted. And there's definitely some benefits to spending time in sensory deprivation. If you can do this while floating, even better. Studies suggest time spent floating in sensory deprivation tanks help relax muscles, contribute to better sleeping patterns, decrease pain, and most important, and I've experienced this firsthand, decrease stress and anxiety. Don't we all want that? Less stress and anxiety. So I floated in one of these tanks, and I felt so light and good after that I felt like I floated home when I was walking. I'm like, am I touching the ground? I'm feeling pretty good right now. And it lasted for a few days. Things that were bothering me before I entered in the tank seemed significantly less significant afterwards. And the afterglow, I would say, of my float really was with me for a few days. And I met my guest today when I visited his first float lab facility in Venice. So joining us today in the studio is Hoefler. He's started his career in Washington, D.C., managing nightclubs. He also did national and international touring, started a band, and built and ran a recording studio. In 1999, he decided to finish up a 25-year relationship with narcotics and moved to Vegas to restart his sound career. While listening to his own voice inside a water containment area, an old water containment area, he was overwhelmed with the thoughts about potential use of sensory deprivation chambers. Crash built out his first tank and tested his theories. The chambers had such a significant effect on him, it became his prime focus. So after he designed his first chamber in 1999, he opened up his facility in Venice Beach and housed two more original chambers. Crash has been the pioneer of floatation industry and has worked with authorities all over the world to establish and define proper standards. He is currently a member of the NSF Joint Committee and chairperson for the Sensory Deprivation Tank Group. Crash is also a member of the Center for Disease Controls Council for Model Aquatic Health Code. That is a mouthful. Besides operating the two float facilities and manufacturing chambers with patent disinfection process requiring no halogen chemicals, Float Lab, that's the name of his brand and facilities, has been setting up the parameters for Human Modification Project. I cannot wait to ask you about that, utilizing the Patented Cellular Influence Device. Wow, you've been busy.
Well, yeah, just always seems to be something to do.
Yeah. So sometimes, Crash, when I start the show, I'm like ranting about something. I have much to rant about. I'm in a pretty stable, solid, happy kind of mode right now. But I like to allow the guests to do this as well. So is there anything pulling your attention right now that you're just like, I just want to talk about this?
Well, ranting is something I have a little bit of experience in. So I guess I could take the rant on from here. The responsibility from you in that regard. The sensory deprivation chambers are a good form of personal communication. These are points that you made. but I could maybe illustrate perhaps or define better the process that occurs in order to like utilize one of these things that we're discussing.
Yeah.
It's a container that has a solution in there that consists of Epsom salt and water, and then there's like 1,200 pounds of this salt and say 250 gallons of liquid. So it's quite dense at a 125 is the density there to float you up effortlessly, and then the material that solution is heated to like 94, 95 degrees, which is your exterior temperature. So now and then you don't wear anything. There's a shower you take before you go in the shower when you get out, but and then there's a little orientation you get when you show up.
I remember the orientation.
Yeah. So that gets you ready for experiencing yourself, which is essentially what this thing does now. It puts you in a dark area with very little sound potential, and you're no longer required your brain for sensory input or gravitational navigation or balance. And so what they originally thought that was when they would put you into this environment and the stimulation of the brain would cease to be active like that, then it would shut down. But what they indicated was that once the brain was left without obligations, it was able then to kind of go into a different area than what you ordinarily might get to under your daily.
Almost like a restore area, right? Kind of, is it like resetting or?
It's a review place, I think. I think you get a look at you, what you have in there that you maybe hadn't, been aware of. There's.
Is that what it was like for you? So you did not know anything about this.
No.
And so you're just you're in your sound career at this point.
Right.
And you had this thought, and you built out a tank. And then you started floating. Like, what were your early floating experiences? Like, and when did you really know you were onto something that you had to share?
Well, yeah, once I had it, actually, I built one because I didn't know what it was, which was what was weird. And I never heard about that. I saw the movie Altered States, and I thought, well, this is something it's a fabrication. It's not based in reality or whatever. And I didn't really give it any more thought at that point. But then many years later, then when this thing occurred to me that was something that what I was supposed to be thinking about, then I did get one constructed and got into it, and then I thought, you see, and I was dealing with my own. I had a long history of behavior that was probably not. Well, I had gone the distance with it, but it wasn't like I felt bad about it, what I'd done or what I was involved with or anything like that. It was just that I had enough. And that's what I was doing out here in this ranch in the first place, was resetting my life, overall in general.
Yeah.
And
you're talking about drug use, right?
Well, that was when I was kind of pretty much done with what all that was, and a lot of that had to do more with the people that were involved than anything else. I mean, at that point, I'd been ripped off by everybody, and just it was like a drag to be in that crew. So it was that is what finally allowed me to proceed without that encumbersome.
Did you have a thought that you're like, I need to pursue something healthier, or you're just like something else?
Nothing.
Just something else.
No, I was just done doing the dope, and then I was building a studio. I'd already built a studio out there in this ranch. That's what I was doing on this ranch, is I was getting ready to bring the band back out, and we were going to commence to regaining our position in the musical field there. So, but once that this thing occurred to me, which is weird because I was already done. I wasn't looking for any kind of anything, and I didn't even know what this thing is, So, but I for whatever reason knew to go ahead and to get started, and which is what once I got in the thing, because then it puts you like in a position to review yourself, like you say, oh, these are some. And what comes up is actually not even designed initially by your own process of contemplation. It'll come to you based on your internal mechanism that's more aware of who you actually are than you might lead yourself on to believe that you are.
Well, is it, so we know that there's a lot of studies about we store emotional things in certain parts of our body, and some people go far as to say those pains are associated with something you haven't dealt with. So once you're in this floating state, you might start to have awareness, like some physical awareness that leads to some mental awareness, or.
You know what? That's a very interesting concept that I have heard about. That that people are damaged indefinitely from previous experiences that they had pertaining to some issues or whatever they might be. I don't know what it is that has stained them now for their balance of their time, apparently. Because I've seen older people that are bothered by something that happened way back when, and these are best to be like, I don't know. I know I never really was troubled by my past at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I always felt like I wasn't a bad guy, and I did what I did, and it didn't bother me. But so I don't feel like I've been traumatized with my upbringing or school or whatever it was. I'm sure that it left an impression on me. But as far as like having to be, repetitively influenced by a previous condition, that's something that I never really understood full well. But I know it's a thing because I've heard that a lot of people are in a position now from something that isn't even current. Yeah. And these, I believe, this chamber actually, well, what I got to do at that point was evaluate behavioral problems, which were made my own, absolutely, just within myself, that created the issues that were of requiring adjustment. So when you find that environment, which at that time, you see, I was just finishing up with what all that was after a long time, and it wasn't like I was thinking that was a big negative vibe or anything like that. It was just like I was done doing that, and I was trying to get back to doing this, and then all of a sudden that comes to me, and I'm going, well, this is. So then I built the thing, got in it, and then it started to allow me to evaluate all these conditions that are within the reasoning.
I keep hearing the word pure in my mind. That it's not necessarily. For some people, it probably is like dealing with other stuff once they get in the tank, but maybe it's like a purifying your thought or being more real with yourself, because you're just there. You're naked. It's dark, and you're floating.
There's nowhere to hide. You're with you. You're in there with you. That's why I say some people are running out of there and you go, well, there's an indication. I mean, if you can't even be with yourself, then there's a strong indication by other people, because then they're going, and that's I'm into this thing called selfishism or something, where I'm considering me to where I'm trying to improve myself so that I become a better person to hang out with or something, rather than trying to tell some other people how they should be so that I'm more.
I feel that. I can relate to that.
Being like, I wish that so it's like, I think that if everybody was really hooked into themselves and like thinking about what can I do to make me better, that's a good backlash.
That's the quote that I pulled from your Instagram today. That was about that. If humanity could just sit with oneself, that would help on most of the problems that we're dealing with. If we just slow down, sit with yourself,
take some responsibility, and let go of whatever it is that you're now suggesting is the reason why you're behaving in a method that you're not comfortable with. These people are aware of these what occurs from their condition or whatever you want to call it, but it's not mandatory to be repetitively affected by something that's and it's not, and I will have a tendency personally, as well as I'm sure a lot of people, to go into we were talking about that, you were saying something about 5 to 1 on the negative things or something like that,
brain is wired
for the survival modality of our training, and you have a natural inclination, I think, to somehow be suspicious or whatever it is, I don't know, but it doesn't make
and
it
and it's also that relationship with living in the past or worrying about the future, right? So I think in the tank, hey, this is now. I mean, you're just forced to be in now. And I think maybe the first, I wonder if we interviewed like 20 people that have been in the tank maybe on their first time, would that first like couple minutes be like, oh shit, I gotta I'm in the now. Like you have to start to figure out how to have a relationship with the now.
With yourself. You've got to get okay with you somehow.
You might say now, but it's really self, right? Like it's like this present time with myself.
Right.
Without the worry of the past or worry of the future.
I got to adjust some things, I'm not right yet. I got issues, whatever, But you first have to be willing. And this thing kicked my ass. I went in there. I don't even know where it was when I first made the thing, because there was no references. Nobody was doing this or whatever it was then. So I somebody somewhere said, you go in there for an hour or whatever it was. So I go, all right. So I would go in there every single day, and it would just like pop out at 1 hour. But it wouldn't
Really?
be, I wouldn't, oh yeah, but it wouldn't even be relaxing at all. It was like, a bombardment of issues with myself that I would go in there and I would be going over all this stuff in my head that was the reasons why I was where I was at or whatever it was, because I had already just lost another empire.
Yeah.
It'd become down here, now I'm down to the bottom again, starting over, which is, I'd done this before.
In a space where people didn't understand this at first, right? They just...
Well, I mean, the space from what I left to what I put myself to.
Yeah.
It was re-erased again, and then proceeding at that point with the background consideration of knowing what it was once, and then thinking, now it is this, and then I'm going, oh, this is kind of not so great comparatively. But then letting go of all that, and then it was, imperative to get to where I was headed to was to just, okay, well, that's all done. Now I can go ahead. But to actually understand that that was an option is where this chamber really gives you a ability to alter your life. I mean, it's on your own. It isn't even a pill. It's not a zap. It's not a twist or whatever it is. It's just you having that freedom to investigate within yourself in such a way that you can critique you. I mean, you can say, listen here, that you keep doing this again, and the common denominator is you. It's always you. You're the one that it's not like, oh, they hit you with the probe and now you're over there doing what they told you. That's not it. It's what it is everybody makes their own decisions for their behavior. You have to, but what's good to have the ability to do is take responsibility for these decisions and understand how each and every one of them has an effect on your personal situation.
Absolutely.
Like the people around you, how you are around them and how you interpret them, which is another thing. You have to be somehow able to handle other people and how they and not get all bent out of shape.
Take it personal.
Yeah, because that's, I think, one of these things that you take it personal when I don't think that it is that way. I think people are not that deep in their consideration of their actions to where that was like, oh, they planned on getting me like that or something.
Exactly.
I think it just unrolled that way.
Totally.
And
So your first times in the tank were like you dealing with you. So flash forward to today, like what's your time in the tank now? Like how has it changed? What was interesting about that then was I did that, like I say, every day I get out of there, I was exhausted. I'd get out of there and I'd go sit down and I'd go, phew. I'd just been but I would feel relaxed somehow, which is something I never feel. I always need people around. I was always under high intake of different things, and constantly stimulating. Constant stimulation.
Constant stuff happening with me, and then to be out there in this place by myself, and I would get out of this thing, and I had like a screen TV, one of those projectors, and a big PA in there. Like I said, I just built a studio and everything, so I had all this equipment and stuff in there, and I would get out of this chamber, and I would just go sit down in there. And I could like feel great. I wouldn't even turn anything on. I'd just be sitting there going, "Shit, I feel great." I don't understand why I feel good because I'm not doing anything. It was just me getting out of that thing, and I just got my ass kicked. I mean, I was in there going like that for an hour. But when I got out, I go, "Wow, this people are gonna love this." I mean, this is something it's golden. Yeah. I mean, once the people get a load of this thing, and then what happened to me next, which was. I went in one day, and I went to get out, and it was 2 hours later. And I went, whoa, what was that about? Because I did 1 hour every day. Yeah. And then this one day I got out, and there was an hour that was missing because I had no recollection of what that was. Felt
like an hour.
It was just, I don't know what it was. It was like, it was another hour. I got out, and it was 2 hours. And I thought, where was that at, that other hour? Yeah. So then I started going in there thinking about, what's this next level stuff, So, and once again, still nobody to talk to about this stuff. There was nobody to call up and say, hey man, what are you up to over there with this thing? There's nobody doing that then. And then, so then I started getting into like things happening in there, which is then probably like different personal, physical situations occurring in there that were mentally designed. So you have the capacity in this environment to design an option to what it is that you ordinarily dealing with in this, whether it be dreaming or
so you can go in with it like an intention and play around with that.
You let
like,
go
yeah.
is the intention, is to go in there and surrender yourself over and just say, listen, go ahead and take me where I go, you know, whatever it is. And this is a traveling device that you can go in, I don't know where, if it's in your head, but stuff would start to happen in there, like the bottom fall, different things. I go, whoa.
Do you define this as a spiritual experience? Like, when I say that word, how do you relate with that in your time in the tank?
Well, you know,
it's a pretty loaded question.
I think it was the definition of spiritual. Once again, like I think that word is probably used in like the word love. The word love, spirit. A lot of these words mean different things to different people and have a different level of
context or
value system, different whatever, just different things. Which oh, I love you and all like that. You don't even know. You know, it's like for me, I would never say that. Or spiritual is a personal thing for people to be this way or that way. I think it's a good thing. I think it's an enlightening thing. It's a process, which is what I think spirituality should be about. Once again, we'll go back to that selfish thing, was where you're like doing the right things for the right reasons, you know, not necessarily because this is the parameters that have been set up by this organization, or these guys say to do this, or because you're that way, you have to be this way. These are all like, I don't understand why that would be an option. You should take responsibility for your own. And I think that as much as anything else, that it would certainly could fall into that category.
So it's kind of like, it's, you know, where it's different from the kind of things people do for their mental wellness or just wellness in general, like taking a yoga class where it's instructed.
Right.
And you have to do this pose on this mat next to this person. Here it's like design your own program.
Exactly. Yeah. We never say anything. Don't say, hey, listen, this is going to be this way or that way, because you don't know.
Yeah.
You can't even tell somebody something, because what they're going to be doing is exploring within themselves, and that's what they're going to find out about.
I can't wait to ask you this question then. So because everyone's experience probably in the tank is so unique and their takeaways are so unique, is there something that you've started to realize about human behavior from talking to people afterwards?
Well, first off, I don't talk to people afterwards. I never, I feel that that's a
private.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people say, hey, how was your float? You know, go to some places, or say, hey, do you want to join the club or whatever? You know, what we do is they come in the front, they go out the back, you know, and we say, hey, thanks a lot. Thank you. Whatever. That's it. Don't say, hey, how was that? Or how are you feeling? Or anything.
You hear their reviews. So the only time you know how well their float went is when they like comment on a page.
Yeah, and I don't read that, because that stuff makes me feel not good. So
sometimes.
Always. I don't have any need for anybody to tell me what my review is. So I have a very, you know, I'm not big on that process of just like having somebody comment on my business.
Got it.
Structure, you know, or whatever it is, or their particular experience, because it's impossible to get all these people completely, you know, within these different realms of criticism that come up. Or a lot of these cases are not even related to anything that we have anything to do about.
Well, again, this is also back to the 5 to 1 how our brain works. So people are more likely, 5 times more likely, to say something negative than positive.
Yeah.
Like they'll go home and maybe that was the best experience ever, but they're going to stay in their experience and not take the time to say that.
I would never say something like that personally, in any way at all. I would absolutely call up, maybe if there was a definite issue, and say, hey, by the way, I've had people threaten me with these Yelp reviews and all kind of free stuff. Just different angles that are worked on that. So what I feel like,
and by the way, everybody in the service business gets that.
Yeah,
right? Like people working them over.
Everybody's aware of it. They look at the people's other reviews. There's one that came out. But anyway, that's it's a part of what is, you know, that. But as far as like people's takeaway, what we do is we don't do any advertising, we don't do any promotions, we don't do any of that stuff at all. What our business is based on is people that have gotten the value out of that experience and have then like told their friends, say, hey, have you ever tried that out? You know, that was really a good thing. And you know what you find out is, because the people that enjoy that the most are the best people. We've had people come in there for years and years and years and years, and they're just pristine. I mean, they're wonderful people, and they have. But I don't know they're going out there telling anybody at all about anything.
Well, probably not in the beginning, because I remember you had somebody that had like one time slot booked for like a year in advance or something, because it was working so well for them. So they're at first, because of supply and demand, people are probably keeping it quiet because they're like, I want to make sure I get my float
some
in.
people used to say that too, that was that. But now we have the more chambers and stuff, and there's other people that are doing it.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So when you started, nobody was doing this.
Not so many people, right? It's very rare that there was a.
And now there's a whole industry.
Seemingly so, yeah.
Yeah, and with that, I'm sure comes bureaucracy and lots of regulations and different and the competition of it. I don't even know what has surprised you about the growth of this now, or what's interesting to you about how this industry has evolved.
I'm surprised that it caught on, because I was at one point certain that it wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was so sure that these people just weren't going to get it, and so and then it was Joe Rogan that contacted me and then said that let's get this thing happening, man. And so
did you put a tank in his home?
Yeah. We took one out that was there, that was whatever it was, and then we.
So he went somewhere else and had a
initially
not great tank.
He had a one that was it certainly wasn't what we have, but and then he was told about me, and then we got to he said, just that sounds good, and we'll do that, and then he started telling other people about that. And it became a voice that was, well respected, and of a value of his honesty and his interpretation of what the thing is, which he gets it, which is something that everybody doesn't get it, and then people that they're not in the position so much to make anything out of anything anyway. But he single-handedly made it happen. Without him, there would have been none of this now with what this all is. So he was the guy that was the catalyst to the industry. Like I said, there was no industry, and but as time's gone on now, what we've done just as recently as Wednesday, I was in D.C. at a electrical certification group thing, which has all these various industries that are involved in safety and stuff there for a powwow. But there's other, which is so I go in and I'm trying to be involved with regulatory agencies and other safety and health authorities because we have our certifications. You see, we went, I think it's been 7 years now. I mean, I'm not sure, it's over 7 years maybe or something, for certifications from NSF, National Sanitization Foundation. We have our NSF 50 certification, which is an extraordinary achievement. That took us almost 3 years in a laboratory testing. They've been in business for 75 years, and we were the longest tested product in order to achieve our certification. And we got a UL listing, Underwriters Laboratory, electrical listing as well. And that's what we've been doing, is furtherly defining, and I'm on these different boards and groups, and we're making good progress, I think, by the end of the year, because right now the industry is unregulated, that's so
not all float tanks are the same. It's basically you got to be
very, very I don't know what people got to be. I could make suggestions, but it's probably not the best thing to suggest that what I might have to say. So what I would suggest is that people just make sure that they are aware that this place and that place are different, and that it has to do with the equipment that's used to process that solution, which is a big deal for us. We have, like I said, most of this has to do with disinfection efficacy and other safety factors that are incorporated into these standards. So by the end of the year, I hope, because in Texas we've been working strong with a code writer. She's been co-chairing with me with a task group that we've been stuck on trying to get things done, because of the fact that it is going to create more difficulty for others to participate once that they have to follow guidelines that were established for commercial application, which is good for the people. I mean, as much as it seems, oh, this is a guy trying to do this or that, whatever. If you can't, you can't open a restaurant with an easy bake oven.
No. Well, and I would think it's all the different benefits that people can have, and you want people to at least experience it, and you don't want them to have a bad experience, or you don't want them to.
That's precisely the reasoning behind the whole issue with the other people, because of the fact that I really don't have so much of a, but the people, like I say, they go over here and they do that, and they go, oh, well, that wasn't so great, and they charge a lot of money on top of it, and then the experience isn't all that it could be because of the way that it's the system works or doesn't work or does what it does, has say a negative. So the person leaves out of there and they go, well, I don't do that. Whereas if it was actually a good one, like we don't want to prevent anybody from doing it right. People that can step up and get their rig together and somehow get it through what it needs to go through in order to be established as being a credible piece of equipment, then that's a different thing, because then the people say, oh yeah, that was good, I did that over there and that was a cool thing, or whatever it is. So it works better that if people are actually getting it right for everybody. Yeah. It's because this half-baked, this thing about trying to do it on the cheap, or whatever, it's not, I wish the protocols I think will be by the end of the year, that we should have a proper draft that then will illustrate guidelines for operation of these facilities where these things exist. And that's a big step to get all this stuff somehow done, these certifications, and then to actually get code language that I've been 7 years working on this.
And you thought it was going to go away, so to understand that at some point you're like, man, I don't know if people are going to get it, and then it takes off, and now you're in this whole new world of like, now we have to regulate and do all these.
Well, that was how, in order to sell it to these places, like they're going, what are you going to try to do? Sell this thing to somebody that's a serious buyer, and it doesn't have anybody that said it's okay? Yeah. And then you're going, oh yeah, well, and that's what's occurring. These other people have been more aggressive about their marketing than their actual product. And they're all aware of it too now, which is interesting enough to find out about that.
Because you guys have conferences now, right? I mean,
yeah, and I just went to the last one just to go and listen. Which was very surprising to me. The reception for me there at that place was like different than I anticipated. Because it's been in the past, I've been the bad guy, like, ooh, he's trying to get something done or whatever. They didn't want that. But then this time we went there, and everybody's really nice to me. It was a weird thing.
Well, you're a pioneer in this. They should be nice to you.
Well, still I represent this thought. But I think that they realize that it isn't on me. I'm not the one that decides how this stuff is supposed to happen. This is stuff that's the authorities do it, but I need to have the authorities involved in it, because we travel all over the world, and everywhere we go, it's like another group that we have to satisfy with another batch of documentation that pertains to their line of questioning. Yeah. Whereas if it was all properly, which it will be, we're this far away from it, and that's probably, if you want to say what was the biggest surprise, it's that we were able to get this far. Yeah. Because the fact that we are all the way up to here where we are now with the legitimacy of this industry that was not anything. Now we've actually, these group of people we were just with, these cats that was at this meeting, man, they were way out there as far as my type of people. I mean, they're all very official, very suity, very, very, a whole. And then we're having conversations with people like that about stuff. I mean, it's like, whoa, for me to be, and sometimes I'm sitting in a room with these authorities and stuff, and I'm going, this is really a surprise for me, because that I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's trying to somehow. Yeah. Well,
it's got to be interesting though too, because I can't. That's when I reached out to you. I think I saw something on the conference, and I was most interested. I'm like, I remember Crash when he first got started, and now he's like pushing this, instrumental in pushing this forward, and he is in this regulation area. And I was just trying to imagine you sitting at a table with a bunch of suits. Yeah. Like trying to.
It's weird, and I somehow have a great time. I really relate to these people. Yeah. Once I sit down with them, because I've been going to these meetings, and so now I've got I have a feeling about these type of people, And it's different than what my automatic feelings, which were used to be. I used to be paranoid. Anybody with any kind of authority, man, I'm very much anti-authority on all levels. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to be involved, whatever it is, But now, it's the whole thing has switched about, and I feel like I'm actually on the team with these cats that are concerned about, regulatory issues and safety factors and different things like this that I do understand, and I think that there's an extreme value. OSHA, all these people. I mean, there's a lot of the safety and stuff that's involved in protecting the public from unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah.
And so to be a part of the conversation for issues such as this, which I tell you, we're right in the future, you guys. I tell these guys, sometimes I go in there and say, here we go, we're going to go right to the future. And these are guys, once again, that I would have no commonality with in the past. I mean, they'd have been over here and I'd have been over there, and that's just the way that is. But for now, I feel like I've found a group of individuals that have that commonality, that we have an objective. I don't know what their motivations are. I think some of these agencies are concerned with, money and stuff. But, that's just part of what makes things happen. If you didn't have the money or the resources to infuse into these things, then nothing would get done.
Definitely.
So if you can get these guys satisfied with what it is that they need to have in order to make them okay, and then they're going to participate, then that's just what it costs to get.
That's one hurdle.
Yeah,
It's done.
So it's we're all on the same team here, I think, and it's very rewarding to be a part of a group that is looking out for the people.
Yeah, definitely. So you so outside of just floating, just the simple act of floating, getting into this tank. It's dark. It's there's no sound, which I love. I think part of my experience, and I need to do it again, but I think part of my experience was realizing how much noise just bothers me. So now I have noise cancellation headphones that I put in. They're tight. They're very uncomfortable, but just the peace that I get from not hearing anything, I need that once a day. I need a couple minutes of that once a day. I don't think people really understand until they have a moment where there's nothing, where it's dark and there's no sound, and it's just a really peaceful environment, how important that is to our well-being. But so there's that, but you were working on something even when I met you in Venice years back, that I think that you've made some progress that is outside of this, which is really using the tanks as an opportunity to learn something or maybe put some programming into your head, and you call this human modification.
That's the subject. What's it? The title. That would be the title of what the concept consists of.
Yeah.
It has to do with cell replication, where we want to replicate cells accurately through this process of exposure to various frequencies. We're a frequency-based system where our materials are at different frequencies. So say for your liver. So what this thing is it's a chamber that has submerged audio devices that create cymatic patterns of sound.
You're not wearing anything.
No, well, what we're doing now that we're building a cap that has the 32 electrodes on it that monitor neurons firing in real time, so that we can then monitor brain activity during the influence of the input. Because the brain's an interesting thing too. That's another aspect of what this is that we use most of it for like I was saying, external processing, what it is. So we go into this thing now. It's you know what a savant is? So those guys are playing the piano, and nobody even said, "Hey, there's a piano." And they say, "What is a piano?" And they say, "Well, let me play that." And you're going, "How did that happen?" And so they explain that well, over here is a part of the brain that that's being used for this guy, and then you're saying, so well, is my brain over there with that is? And then they say, well, yeah, it's over there. You're not using it. So you're thinking, that's interesting. So I have a portion of my brain there that's in possession of this information that I could somehow access if I knew, how to get some. And what I believe it to be is a circulation issue. I don't think it's anything more than that. I think it's just a matter of popping this thing on through. Frequency input, I think, is something that's going to.
So you've identified an area in the brain that
I haven't, but I've got guys that work with me that are, definitely on a whole nother level than me. I'm more of just an idea guy, but these guys are actually educated within what a human is, in content. So. That's where the fun gets to be, because then you realize that there's these different potentials that exist. Yeah. We're already making what we're made out of. We just don't do it well because we haven't been instructed correctly as to the process and how.
What's the most exciting thing in that area that's happened that you're kind of like? I mean, it's all
up to the point to where now I get to bring in the people that are most interested in doing this, which is the rich people that want to live forever. So then now we have a method it has to do with cell replication and how to do this efficiently and back to.
So more for longevity, triggering the brain for some longevity benefits than learning right now.
Yeah, learning right now to me is like not a big deal, but there's the applications that have to do with learning or whatever. What's interesting about us as a device that I find to be entertaining is you see that we're like a product of a program. Each one of us represents what it was that they've been put into us to become who it is that we are. Right. Now that has a lot to do with where you can't, geographically, this and that. Very little do like with what it is that we actually are, which is a product of sorts. And so if you took a child, a fresh one from like 3,000 years ago, and you brought it up to now, didn't say anything to it or didn't do anything, whatever it was, it's brand new, and then you put it here with us, it would turn out just like us. There'd be no difference in it because we're the same thing then as we are now. We're very little difference between 3,000 years ago us and 3,000 today, other than the program. Now, we could fast forward through a lot of content to get to here would be easy peasy. But the other interesting aspect of this is that we could get a program from 3,000 years in the future and bring that back to us now and reboot, because we're essentially the same device now as that we're going to be then. It's just the only difference between now and the future is the program. So we have got methods of reprogramming people, and then naturally what you need to have is cellular extensions to get to where you can make it through the time required to actually establish some of these things that need to be considered into your format. You know? So
I like that this work and this research and development is going on, because I know what's going on in AI, and you look at that and go, well, if we're going to do all this advancement here, like what are we doing to advance us? Like if this machine potentially could be smarter, better, making better decisions, what happens here?
Well, what I have in mind for my particular purpose is augmentation. I think that we can, and another interesting thing I think about, you're talking about AI or whatever it is, the machinery itself, I think, has got a good understanding of us. I think that if you're on your computer doing stuff that's not cool or whatever it is, and what it is that, it doesn't have to be somebody. It's the stuff that you're sneaking about with. You don't want to
tell people that you're
whatever that might be.
Like I was online shopping before you guys got here.
Whatever is it but you see, I think that this algorithm thing, I've been trying to figure it out what that is exactly. So, but I feel that there's a strong potential that this intelligence has an opinion of us. Now, I know that the guys, Kurzweil and those guys at the singularity and all this and that. But you see what? I'm very hopeful, and as much as I don't even have a cell phone, which is that we can develop a relationship that's more personal with this intelligence. Now, and it knows who's who.
Yeah.
It already knows what it is that you are based on all that. So this thing is, and if it's being misused, I don't think it digs it. I think that that this intelligence based on this combined situation has a understanding of itself. Mm-hmm. I think that it understands that it's being involved in whatever it is. I think it's so smart that we're like infantile.
Yeah.
But one of my concepts to do with advanced intelligence has to do with actually using that system within that system. In other words, we will patch in people. You know what a brainstorming is, right? Where
yes.
They get in. Well, these devices now with the sound that have also a visual system that does not light the screen, the chamber up. It's a visual display that does not create light. So you're still in a black hole in the visualization there, but you can link these together. Say you put in 10 kids, young kids that aren't preset for what it is they think, or whether they're from here, there, mm-hmm. this color, that color, this race, that race, wherever. None of that even has anything to do with anything. It's just the pureness of their perspective, to where mm-hmm. they could then be. Each one of these characters, these kids, could be put into a chamber, because like I told you, we bring brains back online. So you take one of these kids, which is far smarter than any of us, by the time they're that young now, they're already out doing the plasticity of the brain, the way that these children's function, the way their brains operate and stuff. It's just superb. It's artistry, but it needs to be properly directed. Now we could have been in these chambers, right? Mm-hmm. Each one of them, say 10 of them, let's just say, and you put 10 of these kids in there, fresh, and then they're linked together mm-hmm. with the computer. Mm-hmm. So you give them an issue, you say, hey, here's the deal, we need to get some energy or whatever it is. And now these 10 minds are untethered from any other operational aspects of life or whatever it is, other than that issue that has now been presented. And you're working with the computer now, the machine, to then clarify and figure out and put a process into play that could be then used for our best interest.
Yeah. It's crazy that you brought up that example, because again, one of the reasons that I reached out to you is I feel like we need a group float, that people are so disconnected in ways that if yes, individually you need to sit and be quiet and be with your thoughts, but then there's also something that feels like we're just not connected as a society anymore, and trying to bring people back online with each other, for lack of better words. Like I've seen this in sci-fi, and it's bad, and they're using it against the people that are in the experience.
Again, see, there's the misuse of the machinery.
But the way that you explained it, I dig it. I mean, if we can
I'm way into these machines, man. They're super smart, and I don't have a good relationship because I don't know how to do it,
Yeah.
But I can see what it does, and it's a fantastic.
So machines that are machine learning.
They're the good stuff. They're and I'll get a hookup when I need it. But the funny thing that actually it's interesting that.
How do you teach a machine ethics?
I think the machine knows already. That's the point that I'm trying to make, that I believe that they're completely capable of understanding the moral aspects of consideration.
Only because they don't have the human condition of blame and entitlement, and
So it's confusing to them
unforgiving,
how to develop a perspective without those conditions that
mm-hmm.
exist. But I have faith in them to be able to be on our side. I don't want to feel like they at some point we're going to say, oh, these guys are not cool or whatever. We don't need them. Well, which is what a lot of that stuff is suggesting, that they'll eventually be tired with us.
To me, that's tethered with a bad human. I mean, if
exactly.
Yeah, if a human created the machine with bad intentions, then
it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Back to the thing, though, that you mentioned about the
I'm like getting really woo-woo scared here.
Well, no, it's just depending on what your application is.
Yeah.
what is it you're trying to accomplish? What is your end game? You know, where are you headed? Something like that. Whatever. It's a lot of investigating. You know, just we don't really know much about ourselves, where we are, what we are, anything else.
And I think pace has a lot to do with it, right? So, you know, your research, like, there's a reason to take your time when you're talking about human development and rewiring. It's like you can't go too slow, like, to just be careful and like, ask a lot of what ifs. I think sometimes when stuff goes terribly wrong is when they rushed it to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And it wasn't ready, and they didn't think of they could see it on an individual level, but they couldn't think of the mass consequences of several people on the system or using it.
She gets me on that. Definitely, I take a long time to make sure that. Interesting though, back to that bit again about the two peoples together, or the multiple, because just now these apparently they're going, because I've been a big thing about one person only in these chambers because of the disinfection thing, without having to use, because I don't have to use any of these chemicals to create a barrier between two people, which in a swimming pool, that's what they have. It's called a residual, which is in a hot tub or whatever it is. It's a chlorine or another material that is left behind to deal with issues that develop with the occupants at the time. So my pitch has always been, hey, it's already sanitized during this cleaning process that we verified to be able to do this and that within that amount of time. So why do we have to put anything in there? Because you're protecting yourself from yourself. So this has been a strong foothold that I've had in this regulating of this stuff. So, but now apparently, based on our last meeting or whatever it was, that they're apparently going to somehow allow to put two people in these things. Then that would, without the use of whatever these halogens might be ordinarily. Now, if they're able to give me that and say that that's a done deal, then I'll be starting to build these things for two people, which has the two showers, two doors, two this, two that, because they do have a therapeutical advantage, because now you've got you and your girl, or you and your boy, or whoever you're in there with. It's you and somebody else. You know, I don't know what
could be your child.
Yeah, it could be anything at all that you're in. Because I have a friend now, and he's got some chambers, and then he says he'll go in there with his girlfriend, just sit in there and talk with her over problems or whatever it is. Now, because once again, you're in this environment where you're
stimulated.
Tethered from the balance of everything else. So at that point, when you're locked in there with, you're not locked in there, but I mean, when you're in that environment with your significant other or whoever, then, and also I'll be able to talk in these things, which has been something now that doesn't do. And then even if you could even have another interpretator listening through the microphone, making statements to suggest of this or that. But I think that the potential of that modality for relationships is an extraordinary potential. Like, that could very well be something that allows people to get past problems they have with one another.
Yeah. That was one of the thoughts when we started to see two people. I'm like, what if you put two people that were in this massive argument? Like, family grudges. I come from the Midwest. I have family members that haven't talked to each other for like 20, 30 years. Like, what if you put two of them in the tank? Like, what would happen? That's what I saw immediately. I
had a woman, like I told you, never say anything at all, but she got out. No, it was a friend of mine who was considering something, and then his wife and him went there, and then, because then we were involved in another thing, but he told me, he goes, my wife just loved that. He goes, when she forgave her mother,
after she got out of the tank.
Yeah, she had let loose of this issue she had with her mother, and she somehow had reflected upon it in her when she was in the chamber there, and had come to a understanding of the situation that was much more healthy for her to be processing.
Yeah.
She said he said she forgave her mother, and I thought, well, I've had people get out and say that they're going to stop with their school or whatever. Yeah, that one, the guy told me one day that he was doing that. He got out and he goes, "That's it for this," and he was going. And I went, "Wow, man!" It was like this cat just made a decision in there that took him somewhere. So for those kind of things, and like I said, I don't ask people stuff too much.
Yeah.
You know, they walk by something, but
you've had your own experience.
yeah,
you know
I
what
know
the
it
tank
works.
can do.
Exactly.
You know the benefits.
Exactly.
You've gone to the conference.
And it's on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever that was because of who you are. So people say, oh, that was a great thing. I said, well, that's because you're a great person or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do, it doesn't do anything at all but expose you to yourself.
Yeah.
And so if you walk
That's
away from who you are feeling okay, then, you know, your job well done.
And we're all trying to get that, right? When people go to the jungles in Brazil and take a drug to kind of be exposed to themselves. Like, this is something you don't have to go.
Yeah, you don't even have to go anywhere, or, you know, and it's pure. It's not like induced by any type of additional, you know, supplementation. You're able to just tap into yourself somehow and take advantage of. And like I say, it's a deep pond, man. I use that. I still get a benefit even after all these years of doing that. Then that I wish that you know, I need to you know, allow more time for myself too, just for this purpose. Now, but most people are real busy. They have like demanding schedules, and they've got other people that are counting on them, and there's a variety of conditions that exist for people then that create you know, a screen or whatever it is to get to where that is that you have to get to. I mean, it isn't just like, oh, easy peasy. You have to somehow really navigate your schedule to put in. This guy came the other day and he shows up, he was late, and then he says, oh, you know, I can only for half an. Are you out of your mind? You know, what is it? And is it
only half an hour?
I got to go to a massage and this and that. And then I said, all right, well, I'll tell you what, I'll come in and let you know in a half hour, whatever it was. So then it came in, and he goes, I didn't bring my shorts. You're not even supposed to bring your shorts, but it was just this guy. He had so much in him that he wasn't even able to get in there. And I said, listen, man, next time you come back here, have some time for you. Appropriate the time that's required to actually do this. Yeah. And because you need it. Yeah. You know, it was obvious. This is a guy that could get. Benefit. Yeah. It would be a good thing for you with the way that I've already, you know, been able to see how you are with what that is that you're doing, which is. Well, you experienced how he's experiencing the world, like. Yeah. Very, you know, not enough. So he's like, I'm occupying myself with just my own, you know, requirements to do what I have to do, and that somehow burns out a lot of time. But still, it's very important, I think, for people to try to somehow appropriate some time. You know, even with the headsets on, the noise cancellators. Or yep, I think it's all comes down to what is the relationship you have with time, and being, like you said it earlier, like you got when you first got out of the tank. You know, you weren't doing anything, and you were surprised by how peaceful you felt. Like we are kind of, the human condition is conditioned to go, oh, I am somebody when I do something. You know, when people ask you, what do you do? I mean, it's a stupid question, but we all ask each other this still, and I don't know why. But when we reach this point of just being, there's more space and time that you can play with when you're like, oh, I'm just going to be right now. Like, there's different thoughts that come into your head, I think, when that paradigm shifts a little bit of how you're spending time. Doing versus being. I agree, you know. So well, we are almost out of time, so we're going to do two more things before we end this show together. Lots of great information. I hope everybody gets to float. I really do. Yeah, that's a good thing for people. I mean, regardless of who you are, where you are, what your age. This is sometimes say, hey, who's your target, you know, group, and people that want to have a better relationship with themselves. You know, that I think, I think that would be a good place to start. And I mean, that list is a pretty broad spread. You know what I mean? They're not excluding anybody from that one. You know? Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I ask everybody that sits in your position this phrase. So you heard me talk about exceptional human encounters at the start of the show. So I'm curious, when I say that phrase, what does that mean to you? Like, and there's obviously no right answer. It's your definition. And can you think of an example of, like, man, that was exceptional. Like, I liked interacting with this person in this way. Well, Read the question again.
What does the phrase exceptional human encounter mean to you?
Oh, well, I would probably, with me, is various artists I've met that I really, you know, as a kid, I admired a lot and listened to their stuff a lot. And then getting to work with them and speak with them. And I've had a lot of outrageous encounters with outrageous
musicians and comedians, like
different stuff like that. I think that I've been very fortunate in my previous endeavors to become exposed to a great deal of talented human beings that have made a difference both in my life and in a whole lot of other people's lives as well, and by providing you know, like the communities of laughter or music or entertainment or just that. See, that's always represented something to me. I don't go to to a show with a phone and do that or whatever.
You don't have a phone.
Yeah, I know it, but I'm thinking, man, we're at the show, you know, let's watch the show or something, you know. And that has always been a place that I felt like I was experiencing something that was really positive. That was, I got a lot of that.
Yeah, I'm what's coming up for me when you're sharing this is I love live music. I love live performance, live experience, and I don't have my phone out either because it's always so special, right?
Yeah.
Like when you see like a band playing together and you're right there in the middle of that music and it's coming from all directions. So it's that live experience. So it's to me, it's no wonder that you're doing what you're doing now that I hear more of this, because you have such an appreciation for live experience. Now you're giving individuals their own experience with their liveliness or with their own.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because they used to have the clubs and stuff where it was like trying to get everybody in there, sell tickets or whatever it was, you know, come and see this quick or whatever. And now it's like, hey, you know, don't do any of that. You know, just like, let everybody go.
You could still do that. I think doing what you're doing now, you give people an opportunity to open their eyes to these live experiences that we have. This is a live experience. You know, like just making more of the moment and not getting caught up on whatever that programming is that doesn't allow you to be in the live experience. I think it's all connected somehow.
You know what? With the one that would, you know, be most relevant in my position today where I'm at is with Rogan. He allowed me to come into his scene that was very been very instrumental in my scene. So that to me would probably be the one out of all of everybody, you know, that has been the most exceptional understanding of and then, you know, what's it called when you can go together with somebody?
Collaboration.
Collaboration with some individual on the planet. Then he would be the one that I would say.
He's exceptional.
That guy. He makes things happen, and I think and I think he's an honest guy. And to see somebody that's actually succeeding on such a level in the process of providing insight, you know, there's an extraordinary human being there.
Yeah, he gets it. He's connected. He's connected. He stayed connected.
He gets it. He's
all right, Joe. Big shout out for Joe. Yeah, he's amazing. All right, well, so there's one more thing that we get to do together, and we are over time, but hey, I can do that. So I always issue a social challenge of the week, and it's my way of just encouraging people to have a relationship with learning. I think that's a big part of everything that we're talking about is like having curiosity and just staying in a learning mode. That's how we grow, you know, and that's how we're able to connect with more people. So I really think this week's challenge should be something about sensory deprivation. If you're not in a situation where you're near a float tank, if you're not here in Los Angeles, you know, try noise cancellation headphones, sit in a dark room, just let yourself experience that for at least 5 minutes. And you'll start to, I think everybody's going to have some sort of experience if they've never done something like that. But obviously, if you can, go float.
I think that's what the meditation is about. When they meditate, they sit there with themselves and their thought, and they isolate something. So I think that's a healthy. I don't know how to do that, but I mean, if people were interested in being able to do with what they have already there to
well,
work
there's
with.
lots of, like I said earlier, there's so much out there to support someone's meditation habits. There's apps, there's, you can watch a YouTube video, you can learn how to meditate. So maybe if you're already meditating, put on noise cancellation headphones or take it to the next level, sit somewhere extremely dark, go black it out. And if you already meditate and you haven't floated, then they should float, right?
Well, if they could get the right place to go to and everything, I think it's certainly an advantage to trying to pursue yourself.
Is there any universal website that helps you locate places that have been certified?
No,
they're
we were the only ones that have been certified. Yeah. So
yeah,
and some places are doing a good job. I don't want to be negative about the other venues, but it's just a matter of just go in there and look and see, and if it suits your mind, then right on. That's cool. But I think if you just go online and put sensory deprivation, floatation, or something,
you'll find something. Yeah. You just put float. It's coming. It's amazing to me how much this industry has grown. I love it. I'm happy for you. Actually.
Well, I'm happy too. It's just that no, that's great. That's all there is to it. I'm feeling very fortunate that we've got this far. And there's still a long way to go, and it gives me, good vibes. So.
Yay! Good vibes. Good vibes all around. Nothing but good vibes in here too. Yeah. That's a good way to end it. All right. Well, we're going to be sharing all the links so you can learn more about Crash. You can learn more about Float Lab. There's 2 facilities here in Los Angeles. I think we need one downtown so bad. But if
that might be where we put that doubles in here.
Yeah.
I
have some real estate friends.
We could work on that. Start to talk to somebody about that.
All right.
Here we go.
Perfect. All right. Well, I've really enjoyed catching up with you. We're going to share all your links for everybody, and.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this was fun.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for anybody listening too.
Yeah, definitely. So that brings us to an end of another edition of Relatable. As always, I just want you to think about, your opportunity is here right now to go out and make an exceptional and human encounter happen today. So do that. See you next week.